Welcome. Bonjour to the Thursday, September 12th. Get my microphone on. 2024 meeting of the Ann Arbor Historic District Commission. This meeting is being held in person and electronically via Zoom. We intend to conduct this hybrid meeting similarly to an in-person meeting. However, please be patient if there are technical difficulties. Members of the public who would like to comment on hearings or other matters may do so in person or virtually. To speak during any of the public comment opportunities, please call 206-337-9723 or toll-free 877-853-5247. Enter meeting ID 965-3669-9762. This information is also available on the published agenda in the public notices section of the city website and on the broadcast of this meeting on CTN. CTN can be found on Xfinity, Channel 16, AT&T Channel 99, streaming online on YouTube, or at a2gov.org/watchctn. Ms. Thatcher, will you please call the roll?
Certainly.
Okay.
Commissioner Ross.
Present.
Commissioner Fortner. Here. Commissioner Kaplan. Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Rockland.
Here.
Commissioner Calderon.
Here.
You have a quorum and one more is expected.
Very good, thank you. Okay, so we can take a look at the agenda for this evening, and I'm just curious if there's any changes to the printed agenda. Okay, seeing none. And without objection, the agenda is approved as presented. And next on the agenda is public comment. So this is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about an issue that is not listed on the public hearing on this agenda. To comment on such other preservation matters, please approach the podium or join the meeting using the information displayed on the agenda and the video feed. I'm wondering if we have any virtual participants this evening.
We do, but no one is indicating that they'd like to speak.
Okay, you can hit *9 on your phone or raise your hand in the Zoom room if you'd like. I don't see anyone approaching the podium, so I will assume that no one wants to speak for public comment, and we will move on. To E, unfinished business, and we do not have any unfinished business, so we'll go right to F, hearings, and we'll hear the staff report for our first hearing, which is F1 543 Detroit Street. Ms. Thatcher, please.
Thank you. Okay. 543 Detroit Street has been to HCC a couple of times. And so I think most of you are familiar with it. I'm not going to give the complete history, but it is the circa 1850s Thorpe Frank House, and it's one of Ann Arbor's oldest houses. HCC has approved work on this house in December of 2022 and March of 23 and June of 24. And the applicant is now returning to seek HCC approval for a trash enclosure, fence, retaining wall and stairs, gravel and paver paths, and gravel and paver patios. Let me run through the photos and the drawings. So front of the house, I wanted to point out the dormer up here. Remember that was an earlier application that was approved, and I think it looks very subtle, quite frankly. Might not have noticed it if I wasn't exactly in this spot trying to get a picture of it. This is the north side of the house. Now we're moving around to the back. This was previously approved work. It's quite startling when you first go back there. But if you recall, this was a bank of non-original windows that were replaced with the same size windows. This was a CMU wall, basement wall, that has sliders installed. And this is the new addition with a deck on top of it. And this kitchen bump out was also new. And here's that little dormer from the back. This application is about landscaping in the entire backyard and including lowering the grade of most of the backyard by a couple of feet. I'll get to that more when we get to the staff reports, but you can see here that there's sort of a trench dug around the house, where it's already, the grade has already been dropped. This is the side yard on the north side. This is the back of that new addition with the deck on top of it. And the next two slides are just pictures of the backyard. This house faces Beek Street. This is the back of a house on Beek Street. Big tree was taken down some time ago because it was diseased and was a hazard. Here's another view of the backyard. There are trees here, but they're mostly around the perimeter. Actually, they're all around the perimeter now. Some of them are just scrubby stuff that's grown up, and some of them are bigger trees. Another view of the backyard. Here we're standing in the back looking out the driveway toward Detroit Street. This is the deck on top of the lower level addition. And these are a couple of application photos just showing the driveway and the view from the street looking down the driveway. Notice there's a big tree here, which it's probably on the neighbor's lot, but that's okay. They're not proposing to do anything with it. So this is the front of the house and the front porch. There's a fence that's at the end of the driveway. This is where we are now. And it is screening, built into it is a trash enclosure with a little shed roof, just a place to keep the cans so that they're not sitting out in view of the street. The landscape plan is extensive, so I asked the applicant if they would label all of the things that are new, but after looking at those photos, you'll probably realize that some of these trees are here around the perimeter, but there's pretty much nothing else in the back. So a lot of work proposed here. As a reminder, the grade falls off steeply. There's sort of a flat space back here where you would walk out of the basement, and it drops only a little bit more back to the backyard. But this hill here, from the end of the driveway down toward the back, is pretty steep. That's an elevation change of about 6 feet. This is just showing where the slopes are for grading and drainage. And everything that has a little square here with a label, with a letter, is new work. And we're gonna flip back and forth between the material schedule, A through G, and the proposed work. So, starting from the front, couple of new concrete aggregate slabs in the front to the front walk. The driveway is a B, that is chipped gravel. So chipped gravel driveway. This is where the trash enclosure is, or it could be this one, I'm not sure. This is probably a gate, maybe this is a trash enclosure. Nope, this is a trash enclosure. Anyway, this A is all, again, that exposed aggregate concrete. So you would go over here. This is like a little patio, basically, between the fence with the gate and the trash enclosure. These are the stairs going up to the new deck. These are steps going down to the backyard. These are big slabs. And then, let's see, what are E stairs? E stairs are exposed aggregate steps. Okay. Going down, little landing here, down a few more steps. Here we've got landing pads, that larger rectangles that lead to a patio here. That's, again, the exposed aggregate concrete. Try to picture it with no furniture on it, and it's just a series of squares back there. Okay, if we're back up on the driveway again and we walk down this way off of this patio, we go on a gravel path that follows the side yard line. There's some sort of focal point down here, and these are new trees, all of them. And this tree is sitting on top of a retaining wall that is up to 4 feet tall. That sort of wraps around the back of this patio and, keeps the the busy front separate from what's going on in the backyard. There's a new fence.
What's D, sorry?
D
Flip back to D.
is, that's the retaining wall.
Yeah,
with a
veneer, okay.
Veneer and cap. Veneer to match the foundation of the new addition on
Okay.
the house, or the wall of the new addition, and it is 3 to 4 feet tall. Then we've got F is a fence going around most of the property, and that is, I'll tell you later how tall it is. Okay, this is a 2004 file photo. I think most of you have seen that by now, right after the aluminum siding was taken off. From the Secretary of Interior standards, the standards that best apply are number 2, which says the historic character of a property will be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property shall be avoided. Number 9 says new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. Number 10 says new additions and adjacent or related new construction shall be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. From the standards from the Secretary of Interior's guidelines for building site, not recommended is introducing a new landscape feature, including plant material that's visually incompatible with the site or that alters or destroys the historic site patterns or vistas. Recommended in district or neighborhood setting is identifying, retaining, and preserving building and landscape features which are important in defining the historic character of the setting. Also recommended is retaining the historic relationship between buildings and landscape features of the setting. It's not appropriate to introduce any new building, streetscape, or landscape feature that is out of scale or otherwise inappropriate to the district's historic character. And that is my last slide for this. So keep in mind when you're reviewing this, that this is a fairly substantial change to the backyard. I'm going to go through a few more details, but also remember that this slopes downward and a lot of this will be invisible from the street. Let's see, the proposal includes a 6-foot-tall wood alternating board fence surrounding the backyard. The fence has a gate on each side of the house. The work visible from the street includes 2 new exposed aggregate rectangular slabs leading to the front porch and a new gravel path on the northeast side of the house. And it was in at the review committee site visit, which took place last month, when the applicant was telling us about the intent to grade the entire backyard over here behind the house and drop the grade. I think it was like 2 feet, a couple of feet. So when we pull the applicant into the meeting, we can have him talk more about that when it's his turn to talk. So staff believes that the work is compatible with the historic character of the site and does not compromise any character-defining features of the house or yard. The design is a more modern style, but compatible with the house and the neighborhood, etc. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Thatcher. We'll now move on to the review committee report, and it's myself and Commissioner Fortner who are on the site. So would you like to give your report, please?
Yeah, I think I'll just reiterate what Jill said about none of this work being visible from the street except for the driveway and the walkway along the north side of the building, given the fence across the driveway and the fact that most of the yard is lower than street level. It was, historically this multi-level sloping yard, and it will still be, though, more formalized and organized.
Thank you for that. I agree with what I heard in the staff report and also with your report, so I'm not going to add anything because it would just be repeating word for word exactly what you said, so thank you. So now we'll move on to the applicant comments. So do we have the applicant in Zoom?
We do. Let me
Great.
promote him.
Yeah, we're going to promote you, and please, when we do, provide your name and address for the record, and then you have up to 5 minutes to speak, and just please comment on whatever you'd like to, as well as what you heard in the staff report and the review committee report. Thank you.
Bear with us, Ryan. We're trying to promote you.
All
Oh,
right.
there you are.
Ryan, are you there?
I am here.
Wonderful. Do you have any, please state your name and address, and then let us know if you have any comments.
Sure, my name is Ryan Youngblood, and our office address is 512 Madison Avenue, Rochester, Michigan. I don't have any comments. I think that Jill has done a very thorough and good job as far as explaining the project as intended and proposed, but I'm here for any questions that anybody may have.
Well, the staff report mentioned something about just a requirement to, kind of like a new requirement that was to drop the site 2 feet because of drainage. Can you just kind of explain what the plan is, the proposal is for that?
Sure. Yeah, great question. So when we're a landscape architecture firm, and when we were called on site, the structure renovation was already complete and the grades were established with the walkout elevations of the basement. So we have to now make it work, and that's what we've done in our site surveys and site study process. And the water prior to us coming onto site, prior to renovation, to say, did run from the rear of the home back towards the rear of the property. And yes, we are lowering the grade, but the water, as shown on all the existing and proposed drainage plans, will still be making that same motion, from the house back towards the rear property. It'll just be doing it at a lower grade. So at one point, the grade was higher because there was no walkout in the basement. And so the architect decided to add windows in that walkout, which lowered that elevation at the perimeter of the home. And so we are simply just lowering to that grade so that people can have access in and out of that walkout basement.
Thank you for that explanation. I'm wondering if any of the commissioners have any, are there questions for the applicant? No. Okay. All right, Ryan, hang out for 1 second. We're going to do the public hearing and then have a discussion, and we might have further questions for you, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so now we'll open the public hearing for this application at 543 Detroit Street. And public comment may be made in person or by joining the meeting virtually. To electronically raise your hand, hit *9 on your phone. Do we have anyone that looks like they want to comment? Okay, no one here as well. So the public hearing portion of this application is now closed, and we'll move on to asking any commissioner if they'd like to make a motion. Yes.
I move that the commission approve the application at 543 Detroit Street, a contributing property in the Old Fourth Ward Historic District, to add a trash enclosure, wood fence, retaining wall and stairs, gravel and paver paths, and gravel and paver patios, on the condition that the wood fence does not exceed 6 feet in height. The work is conditioned as compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for building site and district or neighborhood setting, and the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for residential landscape features.
Second.
Thank you. That was moved by Commissioner Fortner and seconded by Commissioner Calderon. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I guess I have a question.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a landscape architect, but it doesn't look like the species of any of these plantings are called out. And I guess, I don't know, I'm just curious, or I'm like, are there bad, like historically incompatible, like landscape species that shouldn't be planted? I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not being a landscape architect. I mean, I love trees and plants, so it looks great to me, but I don't.
So that's a question for Ryan, or is it a question for us?
I
If
guess
there,
just, like, if we-
such a
if we
thing, do we
care.
care? Yeah.
Yeah,
What the
I would
species
think it
are.
would fall into it could be removed with no impact, if they were considered inappropriate or
Okay.
something, they're
Okay. So
Removable.
I guess we don't. Okay. Yeah, I was just kind of curious. Oh, I'm, like I said, I love landscaping, so I am fine. But good point.
I'm wondering, if anyone on the commission has any issue with the, like the front walk is going to be exposed aggregate with, oh, actually, Ryan, what is, the exposed aggregate on the front walk, is there like a gravel trim to that, or what, is there a trim, or is it grass trim?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's a grass trim.
Okay. So then the question is, does anyone have an issue? It's sort of like a modern setup where you have kind of a rectangle. It's not, they're not offset or anything, so it's not, it's like one step back from that, but it's not the kind of continuous walk up there. It's really one of the only parts besides the fence that you'll be able to see. It's, to me, it's not appropriate, but it's not like the most appropriate choice, but it's like within the ballpark, I think, of what you could do. But I'm just curious if anyone felt differently about that.
I agree with you. It is pretty modern, but it's not demonstrably inappropriate.
Okay.
And
my
it's pretty
opinion.
small.
And
It's not a big,
reversible.
feature of
Right.
winding.
Yeah, it's wider than it needs to be, that's for sure, but it's not too wide. Okay, they've walked the line there, it seems. I think that since almost all of this is going to be invisible from the sidewalk, it makes the fact that it's more modern, and, I mean, it's kind of like the house itself, where you have like what you can see, there's the little dormer, and then you go in the backyard, and it's like the modern, it looks like a modern house, and I think the landscape is more or less going to be the same, except for a few little clues in the front. I also think that the materials that are being used are like very high quality, so that also kind of elevates it and makes it look appropriate to the neighborhood. So I think that's why I'm not hearing much in terms of comments. So are there any other comments, or should we wrap this up? Okay, I'm not seeing anything. So let's move to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, please say no. Okay, the motion carries. Your application has been approved. So thank you, Ryan.
David, quick question.
Of course.
Maybe more so for Jill, and Jill or David or anybody in the room could answer at a later date too. Our current permit status with Ann Arbor on a grading permit, which would permit us to start the project, is on pause and waiting for tonight's decision. Could you just answer in Ann Arbor, because we don't do a ton of work in Ann Arbor, what is the next step as far as getting that to be green light?
Yeah, so I will sign off on that grading permit tomorrow when I get back in the office, and let Peter Stevens, the grading coordinator, know that I'm done with it, and then he'll be the last sign off. So, you know, it shouldn't take long. You'll be notified when that grading permit is approved via email.
Okay, sounds good. I thank each and every one of you guys tonight for your attention to this request, and we will work hard to make sure that we make that property look really good and fitting for Ann Arbor.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Okay, you too. Okay, very good. Let's move on now to hearing F2, that's 302 South Main Street. Ms. Thatcher, whenever you're ready, please.
Mariana's going to take this one.
Oh, Mariana, please, the staff report. Thank you. I'm going to have to know ahead of time somehow what's what, so I don't step on Mariana.
Okay, we are at the corner of Main and Liberty at the Black Pearl, which is currently doing some internal renovations to combine and expand their storefront with the storefront next door at this corner, because they're currently right here. But they do have a little bit of exterior work proposed as part of this, which is primarily the new awning, replacing the existing right here, and then adding some signage on top of the corner awning. So as a history of this building, the 3-story brick Italianate commercial block has been remodeled twice, once after a major fire in 1910, and again in 1976 when the roof was raised to accommodate the Downtown Racket Club on the 3rd floor. And at the same time, the storefronts here at the corner at 300 and 302 South Main were both remodeled with the darker brick facing and then the dark aluminum storefront window frames, which you can kind of see from this picture. In 2008, in May 2008, the Black Pearl applied for and was approved to add the existing awning and signage. And according to building permits right next door, that corner building, that canopy was installed in 1996. Previously, there was a Starbucks sign on the corner, and this was approved in 2004. It did feature internally illuminated channel letters. And then it was removed earlier this year or late last year when the Starbucks closed. So it used to be right above this awning here. So like I said, the applicant seeks HGC approval to remove this existing awning and then add a large fixed canopy here that matches the corner existing canopy, and then also proposes new signage on this existing canopy. So just a shot of the existing canopy. The brick is still extant and in good condition underneath the canopy. So this proposal will actually, to remove the canopy, will actually show more of the brick. This is the existing at the corner, and it is proposed to be kept, just repainted and then signage on top. Another shot of the corner. Looking north at the existing awning. And then getting into the new drawings. So like I said, nothing is going to change on the corner storefront in terms of the awning or the storefront. There will be some repainting. The biggest change will be the addition of the Black Pearl signage on top of the awning, and it'll be both on the north side and then here on the east side. Then the existing awning will be removed and a new canopy is going to be installed, and it will match the existing on the corner. There will be no connection between them, so they'll have the same design, but they will not connect. They'll be at the same height, same width. This is really intended to match the existing here, which again was installed in 1996. And then from above, there'll be some new lighting underneath the canopy and then wood soffit to match the existing on the new canopy. Then you can see from above that they won't be connected. There'll be about 1.5 feet of distance between them. So though they will be one restaurant, they will kind of remain visually two storefronts. Then simple canopy attached through the cable. As noted, all structural fasteners will be within the mortar joints, not within the masonry. And the width and the height will align with the existing canopy on the corner. Then we do have the new sign proposed, and it will have opaque channel letters with the illuminated, so internal illumination with the edge reveal. So the fronts of the letters will be opaque, and then the edges will have the illumination. See, placed right on top of the canopy, at the edge of the canopy. And that'll be on both the north and east sides. And then here we just have some renderings. And then here is just a shot at what it used to look like with the Starbucks sign. Some applicant photos. So I think Jill already read these, so I will skip through the Secretary of the Interior standards, and I will highlight some of the guidelines from both the Secretary of the Interior and the Ann Arbor Historic District guidelines. So building site, it's recommended to design new exterior additions to historic buildings and adjacent new construction to be compatible with the historic character of the site and preserve the relationship between a building or buildings, landscape, and open space. Is not recommended to introduce new construction into historic districts that is visually incompatible or that destroys the historic relationships within the setting. Storefronts, it is recommended to identify, retain, and preserve storefronts and their functional and decorative features. Awnings, then these come from the Ann Arbor Historic District Guidelines. It's appropriate to mount a standard storefront awning so that the bottom of the frame is at least 7 feet above the sidewalk, though 8 is preferred. Consideration should be given to the height of neighboring awnings. Similarly, it's appropriate to attach the awning just below the storefront cornice and fit it within the opening, and to mount through mortar joints and not through masonry. And then for signage, it's important, or it's appropriate to install signage in the historic sign band area of the building, ensuring that the signage is subordinate to the overall building composition, and mounting signs to fit within existing architectural features. Then just a few more notes from staff. We believe that the canopy will be attached to the building in a way that is minimally invasive, and if removed would cause no significant damage to the building. And the canopy's height and placement along the storefront is compatible with the surrounding buildings. The majority of businesses along this portion of Main Street either have only signs or awnings, and there are other examples of similar flat canopies supported by cables on this stretch of Main Street. So staff does believe the canopy is appropriate. Staff has some hesitancies about the proposal for the internally illuminated signage because it does not follow design guidelines, although there are other examples of internally illuminated signs along this portion of Main Street that have been approved. So the HDC will determine whether this proposal is appropriate for this building and this location. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariana. Okay, we'll now get the review committee report. So I will go. I agree with everything. It was very well said, I think, in the staff report, particularly around what was said about compatibility. I mean, first of all, the location, I think it's a location that everyone, I think, is familiar with, so there's not much to say about that, Liberty and Main Street. And the compatibility of the canopy is, usually we kind of look up and down the street and verify that nothing's going to be proposed that's not going to be compatible with the other signs and other features, and this is already replacing something that's cantilevering over the sidewalk, and it's going to be matched exactly with what's next door, but not attached to. So I felt like at the review committee, it just seemed like this was, that was the situation at the review committee. Anything to add, Ms. Fortner?
To say that I appreciate that they left the gap between the new canopy and the old one, so you still get that sort of historic two-storefront look.
Very good, thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to applicant comments. So would the applicant please approach the podium? Provide your name and address, please. You've got 5 minutes, and please, just any comments you have, we'd like to hear.
Sure. My name's Keith Russo. I'm an architect and principal at The Collaborative. We're at 213 South Main Street, Suite 200. And I don't think we have anything more to add. We appreciate the staff comments. We're essentially here to answer any additional questions you may have.
Okay, fair enough. Any questions for Keith? Very good. Well, take a seat. We'll do the public hearing and a discussion, and if we have questions, we'll call you back up.
Okay, and the lighting,
Yeah.
that's one thing we'll want to,
Sure.
we're prepared to do external lighting, or if you're okay with the way it is now, I mean, that's something that we would obviously follow up either way, but.
Well, while you're here, that was one of the comments in the staff report, so we might as well discuss it now. Just, can you comment on, I guess, we all could have looked at the example at the Chase Bank, but maybe if we didn't, just describe what that sign is in terms of how it's lit and where the lighting's coming from and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, like almost like channel letters internally lit. So, you've got the kind of opaque edge, and then like, forward facing, diffuse lighting for the black pearl. We understand that, that's an option, and the signage is actually, still, being designed, so, and we know that it has to be submitted.
Okay.
And if the committee prefers externally lit, we understand that too.
Okay, now what you just described, I was expecting to hear you say that the edge was the translucent part and the front was opaque, but I thought what I heard you say was the opposite.
No, I believe that's incorrect.
Okay.
I may need to I may need to check with the team and clarify that.
I thought, the proposal says edge lit sign. Is that what you were thinking or no?
I was assuming that it was kind of like like lit from the front.
Externally lit from the front? Internally lit with a translucent
Yes,
front, okay.
exactly.
Well, is that a confusion? Is that what?
Well, it's not what was in the application.
Yeah.
Is the confusion.
Okay.
And we don't allow internally illuminated channel lit lights, which is why at the review committee site visit, there was some talk about the edge lit instead, since the interior lighting was probably not going to be approved by the HDC.
Okay.
So I think that's why it was changed.
Well, let's figure out what's going to be proposed then, but you're saying
Well,
it's
I would
still.
I would stick with what's proposed in the application. I may be mistaken, and my apologies.
Fair enough, that's okay. Okay, so let's continue then, we'll call you back up if we have
Okay,
questions.
thank
But before we move on, can we just confirm, Ms. Thatcher, or Mariana, in the staff report, can you just show us what was proposed, just so kind of reset what we should be thinking?
Yes,
Before we
let
move
me
on.
pull it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here we have the translucent edge and opaque signs with concealed internal LEDs.
Okay, very good, and that's what we'll move forward with. Thank you for confirming that. Great. Now let's move on to the public hearing for this item at 300-302 South Main Street. So if someone would like to approach the podium or hit *9 to raise your hand, now's your chance. Do we have anyone? Great.
No one is, there's no longer anyone in attendance virtually.
Okay, very good. Then the public hearing portion of this application is closed, and we can move on to Commissioner making a motion. Would any commissioner like to make a motion?
Oh, we do have, we have another one of the applicant team on Zoom, and they have raised their hand.
Is now the appropriate time to,
Sure.
okay, we got to get the other team member in. Are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, who is this?
This is Sam Kafai, KVG Construction. Just want to go over the sign. I know there was a
Oh, Sam, are you there?
confusion. The sign as a follow the HDC outline. And I've been working with the sign company, and they're very familiar with the
Sam, are you there? We heard you. You said you're working with the sign company and they're familiar, and then you cut out. Does it look like he's there?
Yeah.
Sam, can you hear us? We cannot hear you. Okay, well, let's move on, and then Sam will just make his comment when he comes back in, we'll be sure to loop him in. But in the meantime, let's make a motion. Any commissioner willing to do that?
I can do it.
Great, thank you.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 300 through 302 South Main Street, a contributing property in the Main Street Historic District, to add a fixed canopy as proposed and new channel letter signage on the condition that the signage is externally lit. The work as conditioned is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building in the surrounding area and meets the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for all additions and the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 1, 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for building site, district, or neighborhood setting, storefronts, commercial awnings, and sign.
Second.
Great. That was moved by Commissioner Ross and seconded by Commissioner Calderon. Thank you both. Sam, are you there? Can you hear us? Say hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you continue your comment, please?
Yes. The sign will be interior backlit, followed by HTC restrictions. And the sign
Oh, no.
company I'm working with, they're very familiar with all the restrictions of the HTC in Ann Arbor.
Okay, Sam, what I just heard you say was that the sign was going to be internally backlit. And to me, that's two different things. Can you explain what that is?
That means we'll not have any light in the front of it.
Okay,
There will be no lumen in the front. Just in the
okay.
back of it.
Is it lit from internally or is it lit externally?
From the back, behind the sign.
You cut out. Did you say
Externally
externally?
from the back. Yes.
Okay,
externally.
thank you for that. Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I appreciate that, thank you. We will let you know if we have further questions, okay?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so that actually, well, now we have a motion that matches the proposal at the last second there, because the proposal said edge lit, and the motion said that it's conditioned on being externally lit. Now we have the comment from the applicant. So those are now in alignment, which is good. Mariana or Ms. Thatcher, can we just have a brief explanation as to, I know why externally lit is preferred. Why is edge lit? Is edge lit, has the sign standards not caught up with kind of sign technology, or is there a reason why we don't like edge lit? Do you get the question?
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
So if we're talking about an opaque front
Yes.
and transparent or translucent edge,
Yeah.
that has only been approved once
Right.
in the Historic District, and it's only been proposed once.
Okay.
And it was determined to be okay for that application.
Yeah.
So really, as it's shown with an opaque front and transparent sides, I, as staff, would say that that's probably okay.
Okay.
It's similar to, I can't think of it, like Vault of Midnight, where they have completely opaque letters with little lights that edge light around the back.
Yeah, like
But
backlit.
It's just
It's just
within the letter
internally,
instead
yeah.
of behind it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So
I appreciate that.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm just curious, was the Starbucks signage internally lit, or what was?
Right.
I don't know, and I wouldn't worry about it because it had been there for a long time.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure it predated our design guidelines, which were adopted.
It was
in
2004. 2004,
Okay.
the Starbucks was installed, and yes, it was internally lit, so.
Internally lit, but each letter was cut out
Yeah, that was just.
itself, and it was
like
lit as a letter. It wasn't like
Like
a
a
plastic
box.
sign with a, you know,
That was a
internally
regular
lit.
old channel letter sign, yeah.
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 Very good. Okay, so is there any discussion, any further discussion on the motion here? I think
I mean, I think
Yeah, good.
that definitely the removal of that canvas awning and revealing more of the
Yeah.
historic brick, I think that this is a definite improvement. And I think the signage is fine, kind of having that halo lit effect. I think it's a good application and meets the standards, and definitely an improvement on what's there.
Yeah, that was my only comment too, exposing more brick. That was a good improvement.
Great summary, both of you. Thank you for that. I think that we've heard enough, so let's move to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, please say no. Your application has been approved. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. We will move on then. This is our last hearing. It's hearing F3, 407 7th Street. The staff report, please.
Thank you. This two-story house with its swooping trim, steeply pitched front entry roof with a half-round panel over the front door and centered chimney on the front elevation is reminiscent of the storybook style. It first appears in city directories in 1930 as the home of Arno's Bush, a salesman at KYS Motor Sales. The house does not appear on 1925 Sanborn fire insurance maps. It's located on the east side of South 7th Street, south of West Liberty. It's at the northeast corner of Kepler Court, which is a private driveway serving several properties. And the applicant is seeking HDC approval to build a two-story rear addition with a carport. Okay, here's the house today with its charming storybook style. I just love that as a way to describe houses. This is Kepler Court, this gravel driveway, and you'll see in a minute that Mr. Long, who owns the house, also owns most of this driveway. It's part of the lot, but it is used to access 2 or 3 houses down beyond his, and also to go around to a group of condominiums that are off to the right that you can't see here. All right, walking around the house. This is the side. You can see that the second floor in the back is inset a little bit, and it has this little roof over the first floor windows. We've got a pair of shed dormers, though really this is, trim applied, but it does have a little peak here, so it's hard to say whether they're really shed dormers or not, but that's the appearance they give. This is the back of the house. There's a patio here right now and a couple of parking spaces. And then off to the right in this photo is a small fenced-in lawn and yard. And you can see there's a little shed here too. And this is the north side of the house between this and the neighboring property. Okay, existing house has a proposed addition on the back that's inset 10 inches from the northeast corner and actually pops out 3 feet from the southeast corner, but it's not as deep as this wall currently is, the southernmost part of this elevation. We can keep an eye out for this dimension, but I think it's probably closer to 5 feet. Behind the addition would be a carport. It's 24 and a half feet deep and 12 feet wide. And it would be tight for a car, but they know it, and it's been designed this way on purpose. And there are some stairs to get in a new back door on the addition. Okay, these are existing first floor plan and areas of demo. Second floor plan, we've got 3 bedrooms and a bathroom. The existing front elevation, existing south elevation on the side. Existing rear elevation, where all the changes would take place, you can see that there are only 3 windows, and I'm guessing that this is probably a non-original kitchen window that's already been shortened at some point. Though by 1930 they might have been making above counter height windows, it's hard to say. And then this is the north side next to the neighbors. So really not much going on here on the back of this house right now. The proposed addition has a new kitchen and a bedroom, and a door leading out to the new carport. You can see that, ooh, yeah, I was close, 4 feet 11 and a quarter here, and 3 feet with the new one. It is flush with the corner of the house here. We'll see how that plays out in the elevations in just a minute. And the second floor is a new bedroom and bath. So this is the proposed front. The window measurements are on here for comparison to the new windows. And I also have some other information on a materials list. And the proposed window sizes are also on here. As you can see, they're varied. This one is in a pair, and it's a little bit taller. It's about 6 inches taller than this big window on the front. So they made some efforts to distinguish these windows from the windows on the front of the house. It would be clad, the addition, in hardy board clapboard. And this is the back of the house. We've got, it'll be stacked up gables in the back here. This is the existing one on the top, and then we've got a new gable here with new sheds coming off of the sides. And new attic window, a couple windows on the back, and there's that person door that I mentioned, and one other window on the first floor. On the north side, a couple of small windows on the first and second floor. This, the carport has painted 1x10 trim. And the carport's intention was to also serve as a patio, as more outdoor space. If you don't want to put a car in it, you can use it for hanging out in or whatever you want to do there. There is existing and proposed trim detail. The existing, sorry, this is a little bit fuzzy, it didn't copy very well, but the existing trim is narrower than the proposed. Proposed is 3.5 inches all around, which I think is good because the existing trim is a little bit varied. You see that these windows have more traditional sills, and there's probably a drip cap up here. So I do think that this proposed siding being wider is both compatible and you know, close enough to not make it look too funky. There are a couple of cross sections in the packet. For the architects among us, it takes me a while to wrap my head around sections. They are matching. The floor height with the existing looks like they're putting a new basement room underneath. And more sections about the roof construction and where the floors are coming together, and rendering of what this whole thing put together would look like. You can see that the eave here has been kept simple and is lower than the eave on the back of the existing building. And you can see the carport / pergola back here. I did want to point out something about the pergola that I missed, and that is that it has a solid wall on the back. Where does that go? I'm not sure where I saw that, but this is a wall right here. You know, more like a fence, but it's solid, so you can't, when you go into the carport, you can't see through to the neighbor's property.
Does it have a solid roof?
That's a good question.
Okay.
We will ask the applicant about that, unless I see it somewhere before then. Okay. Oh, you can see the wall pretty well there, or fence, or, you know. So the whole thing is a little bit tucked in on the back here. And Secretary of Interior Standard 1 I haven't read to you yet. It says a property will be used as it was historically or be given a new use that requires minimal change to its distinctive materials, features, spaces, and spatial relationships. I have read number 9 and number 10. From the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines for additions, it's recommended to construct a new addition so that there's the least possible loss of historic materials, so that character-defining features are not obscured, damaged, or destroyed. It's also recommended to consider the attached exterior addition both in terms of the new use and the appearance of other buildings in the historic district or neighborhood. Design may be contemporary or reference design motifs from the historic building. Should locate the attached exterior addition at the rear or on an inconspicuous side of a historic building and limit its size and scale. And also design new additions in a manner that makes clear what is historic and what is new. Not recommended is attaching a new addition so that the character-defining features are obscured, damaged, or destroyed, and designing a new addition so that its size and scale are out of proportion, thus diminishing the historic character. Not recommended is removing or radically changing buildings and their features or site features which are important in defining the overall historic character of the property, so that as a result, the character is diminished. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, it's appropriate to place a new addition on a non-character defining or inconspicuous elevation, limiting the size and scale. Also to place new walls in a different plane from the historic structure in a subordinate position to the historic fabric. That is happening on one side of this house, one rear corner. The other rear corner is popped out. So the commission will probably want to talk about that a little bit. It's appropriate to design a new addition in a manner that makes clear what's historic and what's new, and to limit the size and scale of the addition. The addition's footprint should exceed neither half of the original building's footprint nor half of the original building's total floor area. All right, I'm going to switch over to a materials list here. Okay, I've got to stop my share and go back in. One moment, please. Okay, so materials, this is part of the application packet. The roof, asphalt dimensional shingles. The siding is painted hardy board siding with clear pine wood trim and Anderson wood-clad double-hung windows on the addition. The existing window sizes are listed here, and the proposed are on the drawings. I wanted to get down to here, the footprint calcs. I took a couple of notes that I've now lost. Here they are. Doing the math here, yes, the floor area, the total new floor area is 46% of the existing floor area. I did the footprint really quickly. It is 40% of the existing footprint. So they're good on both of those counts. And the existing asbestos shingles are 10-inch average exposure, then they are wavy on the bottom, which looks pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And the proposed James Hardy plank siding is a 7-inch exposure. So, let's see.
That's trippy.
Let's see, we already talked about the window proportions. The current cladding is asbestos shingles. Yep, staff recommends approval of the addition and carport and believes the work meets the Secretary of the Interior standards and all of the other standards and guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to the review committee report. Commissioner Fortner, do you want to give us your report?
Yeah, I don't know that I have anything else to add. I guess, I don't know if this is really semantics, but while it looks like it's on the corner, the side street is not public right-of-way, right? It's this private driveway.
It's like a very wide driveway, just
yeah.
like if it was a house with a wide driveway
Yeah.
that you, yeah. Anything else?
I don't think I have anything else.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. It's not technically a corner, but you might as well think of it as a corner house because of the fact that you can, well, it's not quite as bad as a corner because you can't
Yeah.
see the back. It's just a house with a very wide driveway. There is a difference. You really will never see the back, that east elevation from the sidewalk. The other Okay, and just speaking of that east elevation, there is another house there. It looks like, it kind of felt like, so like their side of the house is further out, like the setback of of that next house down the street faces Kepler. Their house faces 7th, so the side of their house, is like further out towards Kepler Street than the setback of their neighbors behind their, back neighbor's house. And there could be an issue where like if they went so far into their backyard, it would kind of be encroaching that house, but that is not the case, in my opinion. I'm sure zoning wouldn't allow you actually to build in that rear yard anyway, and besides that, where it's proposed with the carport, there's still going to be some backyard. So that felt good while we were standing there. I will just say on the renderings, well, I'll save that for discussion. Let me think if there's anything else for the site. No. Okay. So now we're going to move on to applicant comments. So would the applicant please approach the podium, provide your name and address for the record? Thank you. And you have 5 minutes to comment, so
Thanks very
floor
much.
is yours.
Joshua Long.
Yes.
Own the house at 407 South 7th Street. Most of what I had to say has already been covered. There's just a few things that I'd like to mention. The house is built sometime around 1925. We have seen some of the old sandboard maps, and you can see where there's used to be either a concrete and glass back porch or a garage on that place, and that's above an existing cistern that kind of shares the back wall with my house, and it causes problems with the foundation. So that was one of the reasons why we're doing this, is because we have to address that cistern anyways to get it, to remove it, and as we're doing that, it just makes sense to build. We also have one bathroom in the house on the second story, so that's the other really like precipitating factor. We've got a family of 4 now, and we just want to have a little bit more convenience. You mentioned that the house behind us, we've got a small backyard. We're trying to make accommodations so that we don't encroach too far. What is, we're calling a carport, as Ms. Thatcher has mentioned, we will probably fit a car in there, but it's really more for an outdoor space. It will be covered, which was a question, so that we could have some space for like a barbecue in inclement weather, or, if the kids want to get out there, probably for to put our bikes out there without getting rained on. But we didn't want to do a garage because we didn't want to, really take up too much space behind our neighbors. So we wanted to kind of keep it more open. So that's why we did what we did. I think that's all. Oh, the only other thing I want to mention is there is an existing attic window, which I think on the elevation it doesn't show, but there's an existing attic window.
And does that stay?
That would not. Well, actually, honestly, I've talked to the architect about it. We'd love to keep it. It would just be on the inside.
Thank you, Josh. Are there any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I guess I have. So what's the materiality of the wall that's going to be added to the carport?
To the carport, it would, God, I mean, on the outside, that's funny, I haven't actually given it that much thought. It would probably be just wood. We could do the hardy, match it to the rest of the house. But if you see on the north elevation of the house, it's really close to our neighbor, which is a rental house, and it's also elevated up. So it's about a 4-foot tall retaining wall, and they like to park their cars right close to where that wall would be. So we just wanted to put a little bit of a barrier. See, yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think that I'll just jump on your question, Commissioner Ross, because I had a whole series of questions about the carport.
Yeah.
There's almost no material information about the carport. So it's hard for us to kind of weigh in on it and know if it's compatible or not and appropriate or not without knowing the materials.
Yeah.
So I was certainly curious what the material of the wall was, but also it looks like there's maybe, they look like concrete pillars.
Yeah, concrete pillars.
And then there's a
wood-clad-
roof.
Wood clad over the concrete.
Will we see the concrete or the wood?
No, it would be wood.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
So
And I think that might be mentioned in there.
that was mentioned. I wasn't sure if that was just the post part or the
Got it.
actual pier as well.
Yeah.
So you have wood coming all the way down to grade. Okay? And then
Yeah, which
Could we-
is-
it looks, yeah, it's just
is
maybe
not what's
paint.
in the- yeah.
Yeah, it looks like that could be painted two different colors or something. Like, this is very helpful in terms of understanding the feel of it, but also we need to know what all those materials are. So you could just say everything's going to be wood trim, and then that's
Yeah,
something
that's
that.
essentially what the plan was. With the exception that, we've got the dimensional asphalt shingles to go on the top of the roof of the house. I would imagine.
You can't put those on the flat roof, so it'd probably be a membrane or something like that?
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
Membrane roof and wood trim for everything that we see there on the carport. Thank you very much for that. Are there any other questions for the applicant? Oh, yeah, what about the other thing that's not called out at all, and I don't think you'll be able to build it quite like that, is the stair. So what, again, is that all going to be wood trim or?
It would be wood trim, yeah.
Okay, you'll probably need a guard, well,
And
anyway,
I would imagine we'll need a guard.
You'll need other parts for that, I think.
Yeah.
Commissioner Rockland, is a step 8 inches? Or what's the maximum height of a step?
8 1/4?
8 1/4. Well, they'll still be below 30 inches.
Yeah, so you,
So,
that's, yeah, you,
Depends on
the
how
kids
nimble
will
your
just
kids
be able
are.
to run right off and jump, so yeah, that's just, leave it how it is.
You
Yeah,
wouldn't need
push
one.
each other out.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. Anyway, Josh, I appreciate your explanation of kind of the use of the carport, because carport does kind of mean a thing, and the stair is going to be at least 3 feet wide. You've got a 12-foot wide width, plus it looks like at least a foot pier there, so that's 8 feet left for a car.
It's not, yeah.
That's very, very narrow for a car.
Yeah.
So as long as you're aware, and it sounds like you've got multiple uses for it, so very good. Are there any other questions for the applicant? Okay, we might need you again, but for now, we got to go through all the other things.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll open the public hearing for this application at 407 South 7th Street. And we don't have anyone here, and has anyone joined us to talk about 407?
They have not.
There's now a line of neighbors hasn't assembled. Okay, very good. Then we'll close the public hearing portion for this application, and we'll ask if any commissioner would like to make a motion. Thank you.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 407 South 7th Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to construct a 2-story rear addition with a carport. The work as proposed is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 1, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for additions and building site, and the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for additions.
Second.
Okay, what I heard was moved by Commissioner Fortner and seconded by Commissioner Ross. Thank you for that. Now we'll move forward with a discussion. And I think it'd be helpful to look at the rendering page, because that's very descriptive. We can kind of go through piece by piece here, but maybe the maybe the first thing we should talk about is just simply the massing, like the overall massing and design of the addition. Like that's kind of the view from the sidewalk right there. So that's probably like the most appropriate kind of view to discuss. And just wondering if there's any comments on, if this was like a classic rear yard addition, you bump in, from both sides, some amount to show that you're kind of subordinating the addition. That's what the standards say. I think in this case, you do have that on the north side. And then unfortunately, you see this side, but what is happening is that they are trying to keep the addition as, I guess, narrow or, as less deep as possible. They probably could have fit everything they wanted, but they would be then losing their backyard, getting closer to the neighbors. So it seems to me to fit the bedroom and the kitchen, they bumped out and then chose to subordinate it with the, like the lower roof line. And while keeping it, not quite as far, it's the 3 feet bump out versus the 5 feet. I think when I originally saw it, I was trying to figure out like, well, why didn't they do what the standards say? And I think this is a case of kind of a compromise between the standards that say you need to have it subordinated and the standards that say like you need to fit in with the neighborhood by not being, too close to your neighbor or something. But, it is not, I would say, a kind of classically following the standards. So I'm wondering if there's discussion there.
Yeah, I would agree. It doesn't feel subordinate, but it doesn't feel dominating either. It's definitely a large mass, but I think that larger windows definitely breaking that up more. There's not a lot of open face. That was my first thought when I always see these large expansions to the end of the buildings. I always kind of worry that you'll have a ton of face showing.
What do you mean by face?
A lot of solid trim.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I mean, I feel like this is the trend that additions are kind of getting less and less, or designers are becoming less and less mindful of that ask, or I'd say requirement, to really step back these new additions from the historic house. And I think this is, I'm not saying saying something unique, but this is particularly problematic because of this driveway and the fact that there's not, kind of a house close-up next door to conceal that.
Right.
So, I'm probably going to vote against it for that reason, just because, on the other side, it's 10 inches, and to me, that's just kind of a throwaway. So it just seems to be a trend now to just keep kind of pushing that envelope a little bit. And, this is not even pushing the envelope. This is not conforming to our guidelines, so.
Right.
It's well designed,
The roof,
sure.
The roof comes down, so it's,
Yeah, I got
it's just, yeah, but it is missing in like the most important area.
Right.
It unfortunately is not conforming.
But it's well designed for sure. I understand the reasoning behind it and
Right.
the design, or the designer's kind of goal to meet what the
Yeah.
homeowner wants, but it's.
Let me say something else. I don't think it's sort of within this discussion because we're looking at this rendering. This rendering is really not doing, it's a beautiful rendering that it's very descriptive and it's very clear, but unfortunately, there's a major piece missing from it.
The context.
Yeah, I would
Well,
agree.
the context,
It's a
but
vacuum.
I think two.
okay, there's at least one major piece missing from it, thank you. It's the fact that the original house has this 10-inch wavy asbestos siding, and the new addition is going to have, I think what's shown here, which is 8-inch exposure hardy.
7.
Yeah, exactly, 7-inch exposure hardy. And so right now, it looks like this, like cohesive, it's like,
Always was that way.
yeah, it looks like this is how it always was designed.
Intentionally tried to make it blend in.
Yeah, but I think when the addition will be built with that difference in the siding, and also the windows here, the trim, they've made it all how I think the addition is going to be with the continuous 3.5-inch trim all the way around. And on the existing house, you've got narrower trim.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so there is more there's much more differentiation than what is shown in that rendering. That doesn't change the bump out.
Right, it doesn't make it
Yeah,
subordinate. but
it doesn't, yeah, I think it would help
Yeah.
the picture a lot in my eyes.
And I think the context, it's not sitting in a field.
It would be nice to have the
But,
context. Well, the
Wizard
other
of Oz.
photo was like the city of Ann Arbor was behind it, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I saw one where it was like I could see the diag or something.
Yeah, hospital.
Yeah, it's always
and,
kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know, I always find it interesting, terms, this is just me musing.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, I get the designers like, focus on, look at this beautiful house, but then once it's pulled out of the
Oh, there we go.
context, well, that's, yeah, once it's pulled out of the
That's funny.
context, which, because we care about the context too,
Yes.
that it just, forces me to hone in on what's wrong with it. I mean, not that I'm looking for what's wrong with it, but.
Well, you probably are.
Yeah.
I
A little
hope
bit.
I hope you are.
Yeah, but yeah, I do appreciate those kind of nods, those little kind of, the differentiation in the proportions of the window openings, the treatment of the trim, the siding, the little kind of step down, for sure.
Okay, any other comments on on the bump out? How do you guys feel?
I think it's, given the site restrictions, I think that the other things that with the lower roof line and it's not as far out as the front, that was a good way to deal with the site restrictions that they have. And I think it's still subordinate enough to be subordinate, even though it's coming out from that back section.
Very good, thank you for that. I think that what I learned about the window trim today, I was particularly happy to hear, because I was having a hard time, especially with the renderings until I realized what was happening, differentiating between the two. I think that there's not much detail. It's clearly the storybook style, and that very small bit of detail is being mimicked quite heavily on the addition, and it was troubling me that there wasn't going to be a way to figure out what was what. But I think with because it's like either that and the windows, that's like the two things you have to work with on this house. Just like most houses in the Old West Side, there's just, not much detail except the massing and the windows. So I was happy to hear that called out in the proposal, and that's making me feel like it's differentiated with just enough. It's like right up to the line of not having enough differentiation, because to me, the compatibility is like to the max, 100%. This is like so compatible. But then you run the risk of not being able to see at a glance, what's the addition and what's the original. Okay. Okay, so then let's talk about the carport. I had a bunch of questions about the carport, but I think they were all answered. But I'm wondering if, does anyone have any comments on the carport? Better than a garage?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay. Any last comments? Do you want to reiterate I'd like to hear kind of your stance, since it does sound like it's heading in the disagree direction.
Yeah.
Just one more time.
Yeah, and I guess it's just for future
Yeah.
similar proposals. Yeah, I mean, yeah, just kind of reiterating the fact that because of this kind of wide driveway and then the additional space to the side, this is going to be visible from the public right-of-way. And just not doing that kind of nice kind of separation and subordination that's really clear. And that I feel like this is pushing the envelope, in my opinion. But it's a well-designed, certainly a well-designed addition.
Thank you, Commissioner Ross. Okay, so I think we've kind of heard what we're going to hear. Does anyone have any other final comments before we wrap up the discussion? Okay, we've heard from everyone. So then let's go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, please say no.
No.
Ms. Thatcher, 3-1. Do we?
Motion carries.
Great. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. So you can continue with the project. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. That was our last hearing. And take a drink. All right, let's move on. We are going to item G, new business. There is no new business on tonight's agenda. And that brings us to the approval of minutes. And I believe we have July and August to approve because we had July's last month but did not vote on it because we didn't have a quorum. So we'll be looking at both of those. So does anyone have any comments or corrections on the minutes from July or August? Okay. So without objection, the minutes are approved as presented. Thank you to Brittany Alexander for providing those minutes and the agenda for this evening. I assume everyone gets those in your inbox and reviews them. Very good. Okay. Okay, so now we're moving on to, this is I, reports from commissioners, and I'm wondering if any commissioner has a report this month to share with us. Cobblestone Farms or anything? No? Okay. Well, in that case, we'll move on to assignments. The assignment is for October, that's Thursday, October 10th. And I assume, well, the review committee would be for Monday, October 7th, and I don't know if that's a 5 p.m. or a noon. It was not on the agenda. It's noon still. Or, yeah, we're moving to noon.
Moving to
rather.
noon. Yeah, yeah.
So we've moved on to the noon review committee, so everyone who likes the noon time can
It's officially
raise their
fall,
hand.
people.
What's that?
It's officially fall. The
Yeah,
review
once you
committee
move to the noon review committees, because it's going to be dark and snowing at 5 o'clock, so yeah, we got to meet at noon on October 7th. Anyone? You're not.
I'm not.
Noon's, you're a 5 p.m. I can do noon.
You can do noon?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Maybe Steve or Chip would be game.
I will ask them.
Okay, because it doesn't sound like anyone else is speaking up.
And if neither of them can do it, I'll be coming back. Thank you.
Fair enough, okay. Are there any reports from staff? I have a feeling that there are.
I have two things to report.
Wonderful.
Very exciting. Okay, the first one is that the City of Ann Arbor Old Fourth Ward Historic District Survey Report is done. We took delivery of these from Commonwealth Heritage, the consultants that did the study. There's an extensive history of the Old Fourth Ward, which is great, because we've never had that before. And then, take a look at it and pass it down. And then we have 3 volumes of survey cards, survey forms. Each one, these are SHPO forms that they give to us. Each one has, basic materiality, check the boxes, and then it has a narrative architectural description, a history of the resource, and a statement of significance, and then all of the references that were used. So it's really, and there's a map for every property to show you where it is. So it's very interesting and exciting, and you guys can start using this immediately.
Is there a digital copy?
There will be. The digital copy will be posted
There isn't.
online tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to get it up on I'm working on the city website to post them all. And I have to have that done tomorrow.
Okay.
In order to get a wrap-up report to the SHPO.
Okay.
That's one of the last steps. So you'll be seeing that soon. I'll send out an email and copy all of you on it when that's available with a link.
So how many pages per property? Is it 3 or 4 pages or something?
It's 1, 2, 3. It's a minimum of 4, and many of them have 5.
Okay.
4 or 5 times 350-ish.
Yeah. So when we have a project coming through, an old Fourth Ward project, how will you use this report? Different than your normal process?
Well, it's not different, it's just a little more detailed.
Okay.
Because we didn't have this information, and I would have to basically look up the history
Yeah,
and
okay.
figure it out and write it out, who
Okay.
lived here when.
Yeah.
Now I'll just be able to look at this and say, hey, 715 East Kingsley, it was built in 1899 for Isaac Dunn.
Yeah, okay,
And then-
so
and
it's
there's a-
all there.
and there's I basically will be able to just attach this to the
Yeah,
staff report.
okay.
And say, see Old Fourth Ward survey attached.
Nice.
Which is great. And there are photos, and they took photos of significant outbuildings, not of non-contributing structures, but contributing garages as well as you could see them from the street.
Yeah.
And it's very, very exciting and large, and I'm happy that it's done.
Did the surveyors go property by property and make a judgment as to this is contributing, this is not contributing?
They did,
Oh.
and then I reviewed those.
Yeah.
And there were about, 10 or 12 properties that they recommended to be non-contributing.
Okay.
But several of those, this body had already determined to be contributing.
Oh,
So they're still contributing.
Interesting.
So nothing has changed. The
Right.
ones that they had questions about, they had a lot of people working on this project.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, there was a problem with consistency between reviewers.
yeah.
And somebody was using different criteria.
Yeah.
And so we've gone through those.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking of the obvious thing where if I own a property and there's some change to it or, something, I don't know, it just seems like there's ramifications there.
Yeah, well, if one of these properties, just like with any survey report.
Yeah.
If the commission determined that it was a non-contributing structure, we would just change it in the survey, put a little addendum on there.
Yeah. Right.
With the commission's decision and the date, and,
Or vice versa.
yeah, and let the
If
SHPO
it's-
know.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, yep,
Interesting.
yeah.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, it is. Oh, and this is also exciting. Mariana and I have a new schedule to lay out an overhaul of the design guidelines.
Oh, my.
This is why it's wonderful to have another employee who knows historic preservation. It'll probably take maybe a year. And this is our plan. This is our sketch of a concept of a plan, is that starting next month, we will bring to you a chapter. Chapter 1, Introduction, will be next month. And we will give you a memo or something along with it that says, okay, here's where we see problems, take a look at this. And then that's at the October meeting. In November, there will be a time on the agenda for the HCC to give us your feedback. That way you've got time to look at it. We don't have to sit here with every single little line that staff wants to change and say, yeah, no, whatever, maybe. Can you go over that again? I didn't understand what you're talking about. But we can do that if we need to
Yeah.
at the next meeting. And then at the November meeting, we'll give you chapter 2, and we'll go over that in December. The first couple months are going to be a lot easier
Yeah.
than when we get into the really long chapters in the middle. But we'll hit those in the winter when it's a little bit slower around here anyway. And if it doesn't work, we can revise our process or whatever we need to do. But these were adopted in 2006, and we really need to, or maybe 2008, we really need to go through them. It's mostly to add in policies that you guys have already been doing in practice anyway. It's not like they're going to change dramatically, but it's important for applicants to get stuff in there when you've already essentially written a policy for it. So, and there's a few little wonky things here and there that.
That's great.
Yeah, so,
Seems like about time.
yeah. Yeah, so, we'll put it on the agenda for next month and see how it goes.
Fantastic.
Make sure this doesn't get lost in the, or
Yeah.
left.
Send these back to. Anything else from staff?
That's it from staff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on. Any concerns of commissioners? No. Communications this month?
No.
None. Well, in that case, I now adjourn the September 12th HGC meeting at 8:31. Done.
Thank you.